This is ChangeMakers with Katie Goar, finding the right solutions for the affordable housing community.
My guest today is Sarah Buchanan, the Executive Vice President of the San Diego Housing Federation. Sarah is a nationally recognized nonprofit leader advancing housing across the region. Sarah understands that solving housing challenges require more than building homes. And at a time when communities are searching for solutions, Sarah is bringing them. She has emerged as a leader who brings people together and keeps the focus on the human impact behind the work. So with that, Sarah, welcome to ChangeMakers.
Thank you so much, Katie. Pleasure to be here today. Thank you.
It's an honor to have you here, and I can't wait to dive deep into what you're doing. And before we jump in, though, I think it is great to see you. We connected at the Women's Affordable Housing Network Conference, actually in San Diego. So shout out to Juan and Ashley for everything they're doing. This is a great byproduct of being together in the same place with sort of the same mission, isn't it?
Yes, of course. I love Juan has been such a great and important program and group to support not only affordable housing but women's impact and our networking and how we work together. And it's really been so strong in how it's brought people together and uplifted our voices.
When did you first start participating in Juan?
I actually met Ashley back when she very first started about 4 years ago at AHF Live, which is Affordable Housing Finance Live. It's a conference that happens in Chicago, Illinois, every fall. She had a table and was doing headshots for everybody at the exhibit booth, and I thought this is such an amazing opportunity to not only network, learn more about what they're doing, but also obviously you get a good picture out of it. So it was a no-brainer to meet with them and then to learn what they're doing. And from there, I've just been able to be more in contact throughout the years.
One of the biggest takeaways from that particular event was actually hearing their keynote speaker who had written a book. And that was such a moment of inspiration. And what was there a specific takeaway moment that you had?
Ooh, I had quite a lot of takeaway moments, frankly. One of the things that I really, really loved was how they emphasized not only the education and understanding, but how important it is to take care of yourself in this work and manage how you feel, as well as the compassion fatigue that comes through a lot of the work that we do and the empathy that happens. So I felt like that group really takes a great understanding of how we need to take care of ourselves as well as how we take care of the community.
I completely agree. So let's talk about you now. Tell us a little bit about your on ramp to housing. How did you get started? How did you start in this field? Just share with us a little bit about your career progression.
Thank you. That's a great question. My background is actually not housing at all. So I fell into affordable housing about 11 years ago. I was working as a corporate event planner. So a lot of my clients were organizations like Baxter Healthcare, Abbott Healthcare, Starbucks. And we would do these large citywide buyouts and lots of opportunities for people to have meetings with one another as well as conventions. And I moved to San Diego in 2015 and I didn't know anybody, and I really wanted to get connected into both San Diego region as well as the nonprofit space. My heart's always been in the nonprofit space. And I happened to find the San Diego Housing Federation was offering a job for membership and events director. And this was a no-brainer for me. I know how to do that. I would be great at it. Plus, it's in the nonprofit space. So I was luckily hired. And learned on the fly everything I know. So I had a great mentor and boss in Stephen Russell, who is the CEO and president of San Diego Housing Federation still. He's been there also as long as I have, so 11 years almost. He's really taught me not only how to stay connected into housing and grow my network with housing, but also in San Diego. He's been in this community for over 40 plus years and really understands not only the civic side as well as the nonprofit side. So I was very, very lucky that I fell into this work. And from there, all the trainings and growth that I've had has really been successfully teaching me how to be a better advocate in housing.
San Diego is one of the fastest growing markets. I mean, it's gone through this period of being very affordable, but now it's very expensive, much like other cities right now. San Diego is an amazing city. I'm such a fan of San Diego. But tell us a little bit on the ground from your perspective. What's happening in this affordable housing market and in this sector, just generally, and then we'll dive deep into what your particular organization is doing.
Yes, thank you. So in San Diego is not only an expensive place to live and work, but it's also an expensive place to thrive. We work with a lot of partners here in San Diego, not only California Housing Partnership, but also 211 and a myriad of other partners to actually do a lot of data mining and research about what's happening here. We recently released a report with CHP that talks about the cost of living and really underscores that folks have to make $50 an hour in order to afford to have a two-bedroom apartment here in San Diego, which we think is astronomical. Most people aren't making anywhere near that. And so we see that there's not only this issue of affordability, but there's also an issue of just units not online. Right now in San Diego, we're about 100,000 units underdeveloped for naturally occurring affordable housing, and which is different than the tax credit affordable housing, which we can get into. So naturally occurring affordable housing, or NOAA as we call it, is really that type of affordable housing that you and I can afford. That's generally on the market where folks can that they don't need any extra things to apply. They can be anybody can apply for that. Whereas tax credit affordable, there's a little bit of extra hoops that you have to jump through. So we've seen a lot of those properties be redeveloped into more of a higher market rate non-affordable housing.
Mentioning the $50 an hour really gives us context as far as what people need to be able to do to navigate some of these rents. So that's very, very helpful. Tell us a little more about exactly what San Diego Housing Federation, what do you guys do? You mentioned a few of your goals and units that are needed, but go ahead and start us from the top here and just tell us more about what you're doing in your day job, so to speak.
Wonderful. Yes. So the San Diego Housing Federation has been around for 36 years. We originally started because different cities were doing and municipalities were doing housing work, but didn't have anyone to share the best practices, ask questions. And so we were formed by folks that were doing that hard work who really wanted to create that network of support, that peer to peer understanding. And from there, we've grown into not only an organization that does policy and advocacy work, we work with legislature as well. We also do education for folks in the affordable housing sector, as well as folks that want to become uh, people who are working in the affordable housing sector. So, a lot of our programs focus on folks with lived experience of either homelessness or living in affordable housing, and do advocacy and training, storytelling, and also teach them how to speak to elected officials and their staff regarding policy and actually work on real policy solutions. We also have some programs that focus on getting people jobs. That is a big part of the work that we do. We want to make sure that not only is our sector thriving, but San Diego is thriving. And you can't do that if you don't provide any support for that. So we're very, very lucky that we have a community college district here who supports a 16-week education program for folks to become property managers of affordable housing, which is a very specific subsect of property managers, where you have to not only understand how it all works in the tax credit field, you have to have people reapply every year and reconfirm their items in order to actually stay in housing. So there's a lot of different things that they have to learn. And then we also work with folks who are doing the services, so resident services as well as supportive housing services and asset management. We help them stay connected as well as continue to learn as they're growing into their career. Project managers as well are a big part of the work that we do, and full developers and construction folks. So we touch every aspect of the housing world, not only in the education space, but as well as the advocacy space and the actual development. I'm very blessed to also get to meet with a lot of our members throughout the year and connect on what they're working on and really get to elevate the work that they're doing. And I've been excited for some of these new typologies that are coming online, and also the ideas and how people are working together to create actual real solutions.
Mhm. That's a very large scope that you guys are trying to tackle there in a very difficult market. So much needed work. Is there something specific that you just absolutely love the project you just did? Anything you want to brag on? I'm sure you have a lot that you want to highlight, but I'm thinking some specific project or initiative or a before and after story that you can share with us.
I have quite a few. I probably have so many back in here that I could pull out at some time. But one thing that I'm especially proud of is our coalition building, especially over this last year and a half. There's been a lot of changes in policy on the federal level as well as the state and local level that are coming down the pipeline. And so a lot of us have understood that we are only as good as we are collectively. So, how do we bring people together? So, last year, with all of the changes federally, we created a basic needs coalition. This group is about 40 or so different organizations around San Diego County, and we celebrate and support the advocacy and education and outreach about five different pillars. Housing is number one, obviously, for us. Homelessness, hunger, healthcare, and childcare. So we believe that in order to actually be a thriving community, all five of those things need to be addressed for folks. We can't have somebody not having the health care or not having food and still have a house, and vice versa. You can't support somebody with health care if they don't have a safe place to lay their head at night. So we believe it's all connected. And so we actively work together on different policy initiatives, legislature, and press events. And earlier in May, we had a large press event where all of our collaborators and coalition members came together, and we were able to talk about all of these issues as well as the $50 an hour issue that we believe is so important to talk about. And we were able to have folks from our HEAL program, which is a lived experience program for folks with homelessness experience. So it's called Homelessness Experience Advocacy and Leadership. And so we had a few of our folks from that program speak about their specific lived experience in relation to these basic needs challenges. It was a really, really beautiful event.
Mhm. How I'm just thinking you go through and you build more housing and you preserve housing, you help people out of homelessness to find a house, but then there are more people coming into homelessness. And so it's like the cycle that just keeps having. So you can't always rely on the numbers. Is there a way that you guys pitch this to show progress that you're finding is the most effective way?
Yeah, we actually do talk about progress a lot. So we actually found that this year the rents are actually going down in San Diego. So even though it's still costing $50 an hour to have a house, in general, the rents are lowering. And it's a slow decline. So we see that'll probably happen over the next couple of years. We also work with the Regional Task Force on the Homeless here in San Diego on a daily basis to talk about what's happening for the homelessness population. And we've also seen with this most recent point in time count that there's been a decline of folks that have been in that space this last year. So that's always a good sign for us. While that does feed back into the HUD system of how much money the region gets for housing and homelessness, it is a good sign to see that there are less people that are unhoused. There are less people who are on the street in need of services. And it's really great to see how things are changing in that way. And we're also really, really lucky to be partnering with an organization, 211, who is the group that receives a lot of these phone calls. So when people are in need, they call 211, and then they're able to be directed through their CIE system, which is their continuum of care, and basically find what services they might need. And so as a community, we've worked really, really well together to actually figure out how to support one another and make these systems a little bit easier. There's still work to do, obviously, but there's a lot of opportunity and a lot of really great growth that's happened in this last year.
Mhm. When you talk to somebody who's not familiar with your industry, or you explain your job to your parents, so to speak, what is it you find that surprises somebody? Because, you're talking about technical pieces, regulation, you're talking about homelessness, or all of these different things. Is there something that when you are conveying this to your community that people are shocked by something you say? Would you share that with us if there is something?
There's a few things. I'm very lucky. I have 3 young nephews that are under 18 right now, and they're all really interested in understanding what I do. So they ask me a lot of questions. And one of them recently read one of the reports that we put together on his own and called me up and said, "I'm so proud of this work that you're doing. Tell me more about this." And so there's been a lot of opportunity to really teach and grow, not only the folks that are coming into the world, but also the folks that have already been here for a while. And one of the things that's a shocking thing for a lot of people is that we're not talking about housing people at the lowest level necessarily all the time for income. We're talking about everybody. We need housing for teachers. We need housing for veterans. We need housing for you and me. And there's so many people that fit into that area, that AMI space that could be considered uh, somebody who could actually live in these affordable units, and they don't know that that they actually are part of that demographic. And so that's also a big part. We also talk a lot about the lack of what's being built and where the number is, that distinction. And that, I think, is the probably the biggest shocker for a lot of people, that there's been not only a lack of redevelopment for a lot of these properties, but there's been a lot of these properties that have come offline and gone into traditional market rate and luxury housing sometimes. And so we've lost a lot of units, and we just aren't able to get to where we need to be yet. We haven't gotten there. And so really it's about money. And then also the capital stacks. That's always a big conversation. People don't understand how to pencil a project. They don't understand how many layers it takes to actually develop something that's not only approved through all of your funders, but also good for the city or community that it's going to be in. There's a lot of work that goes into actually making a project happen. And sometimes those can be 10 years, sometimes 25 years. So,
It's interesting when you think about housing. A lot of people think it's like a person type of a social work job, but then when you break apart, there is a component of that. But then you're also like you said, the capital stack, and then you've got zoning rules and financing structures and policy debates, and then all of a sudden you find yourself watching the federal regulations or the draft bills, and you're like, wait, I thought I was in housing. I didn't realize I was a policy wonk or a banker when it comes to it. And there's the constant tension between compliance and compassion of how you want to provide programs. Is there a particular leadership mantra that you resort to keep all of those buckets in check, but still pay attention to the human impact? Is there some guidelines that you operate by that helps you do all that?
that's a great question, and I have to admit, probably not. I think for me, I tend to really understand that we need to be working collectively, and so the more that I understand what my staff and team are working on, and the more that they understand the vision and why we're doing something we're doing, I think the more connected we really feel, and more cohesive we are together working. So I do everything in my power to really empower the team and let them ask questions and have ideas. I believe that no idea is a bad idea, and we should try. Why not? Why not? Let's try something. Let's be flexible. Let's figure out a new resource. And I love when people have ideas and come to me with, "Hey, I have this great idea," or "I have this idea I'm not so sure about, and I'd love your feedback." I want to see that. I want to receive those ideas and give some faith to someone else to be able to actually move forward with it. I think that's the most important part of being a good leader for me.
It's interesting when you talk to a lot of people who are in this industry, we all would agree that there's something about housers that go, let's figure it out. Everything's figure outable. Or we have like this eternal optimism that makes absolutely no sense. Or we also have this like, I know this sounds crazy, but let's do it. And Like we're like the oddest group of professionals. Anything that you actually are like, oh yeah, we kind of do that too. Any of that resonating?
100%. I am definitely that person that is like, this is a crazy idea, but we're gonna figure out how to do it. And it might take me a little bit of time, but I like this. Let's go for it. Um, we've been talking to our regional partners and state partners and about one thing in particular that I think would be a really, really important and valuable thing if we could make it happen. And it's been in my brain for about a year now, a little over. And so we're starting that process of how can we actually make this work? And it would really be this database that is a living, breathing database that not only shows all of the available units, but also has one stop shop. So, someone who's looking for housing, or maybe it's somebody who works for a service provider who's working in that space that's looking for housing for their folks. Um, and they want to be able to get to it easy. One place where application can go to multiple places where people can pick and choose their area. That is my ultimate dream. And we've been working on that with the cities and municipalities. It's a little tricky because a lot of developers have, they don't necessarily want to share all that stuff outwardly. And so, really getting people to buy into the conversation is part of what we're still working on right now. But we do have a lot of great groups that are already saying yes to this. And very, very excited about what could be. And so, again, I'm always on board for that's a crazy idea. Let's see if we can do it.
I love that. So, how does this idea that you are birthing and testing and where you want to get to, how is technology playing a piece of how you think maybe that'll happen?
Great question. So, our partners at 211 have the infrastructure already. It's part of their a system of care already, and they have offered to be the place where everything lives as a database. They already have all this systematic stuff put in place for the last 20 years, and really just to build upon it. They, along with the municipalities, have agreed that there would be some resource sharing and a lot of content sharing, but we're still working on getting property management organizations and developers on board for it. But really, that infrastructure, not only the phone call database, but as well as the actual operations database and the CIE that they have to actually help people get through the system. It's all already created, and all we would have to do is have this additional layer.
Okay. Well, I've been asking a lot of questions of you. So I'm peppering you with questions. I think we could talk for 5 hours over coffee here. When you love housing, you want to learn more, you want to do better, and I appreciate that about our industry. Is there something specific that you would like to highlight, maybe that we haven't covered, though?
For me, one of the most important parts of this sector is really how we show up for one another and how we ask questions. And we all kind of, to your point, all want to learn more and grow.
Hmm.
I don't see anyone in this sector who feels like they're resting. I don't see anybody who's just there doing the day to day job, just getting through it. Everybody has a passion. And that is what drives me, the passion of the community, the people that really want to do good for each other and for the full community as a whole. That is something that is a personal passion of mine. I like to develop that as well in people. So I really, really love that about our sector. As well as the continued education. There's always an opportunity to learn and grow and find somebody who's a mentor or be a mentor for someone.
Hmm. I've been posting lately on LinkedIn and using the phrase keep going because sometimes you just have to have somebody tell you just keep going. Like it's too early, don't give up, just keep doing the work we're doing because we also need to be reminded that this is hard and we have to be encouraged to just make sure that we are digging into the passion, but we're also preserving ourselves in a way that we are able to show up and continue this work. So it's perfect timing for so many of us who've been doing this for a while. So um, great words of advice that you just mentioned there.
Thank you. I think when to your point too, we need to take care of ourselves. And
Mhm.
so not only, we talk a lot about self-care here in San Diego, but a lot of that really is the understanding of where you are. Um, fully understanding that self-awareness of how do I feel in this moment? How does my body feel in this moment? Do I feel safe? Do I feel empowered? Or is there something that's pushing me away? And so we check in a lot. And a lot of the programs that we do have people with lived experience in them. So there's that secondary trauma that could happen, or the additional trauma. Or so we have to be really thoughtful about how we interact and what things we say, and what we bring up and the way we bring things up, and really understanding that we could have compassion fatigue as people who are doing this work. And so to take care of yourselves as the person doing the work, give yourself those strong boundaries of, I need to be off work by 6 p.m. so I can have a life, or I need to be have a separate cell phone for work, or whatever those things are that really offer you that balance. No, we say work-life balance, but really it's hard sometimes because this is part of your life. You're trying to be passionate about it. Maybe not trying, but you are passionate about this work.
Mhm.
And so sometimes it doesn't turn off.
Mhm.
But we want people to let those things leave their bodies for a little while so they can actually replenish themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great reminder. And I think it's, when you're in an industry that you're so mission driven, they do talk about that compassion fatigue. So thank you for reminding us to take a pause and pay attention to our own energy preservation for the long term. So, Sarah, it has been an absolute honor to have you on the podcast. You've given us lots of things to jot down and remember, and you've shared what you're doing as the Executive Vice President of the San Diego Housing Federation. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you so much for having me today. It's been such a pleasure. I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thanks for listening to ChangeMakers with Katie Goar. To find out more about Katie, go to quadel.com. That's QUADEL.com. This has been a production of Forbes Books Radio.